somehow, some way, in some really strange manner, Studio Trigger was involved with Uma Musume. I cannot run from it. Hello everyone, welcome to the Weeb initiative. I'm your host, the Weeb. This is the show where every other week I'll be talking about anime, manga, and everything in between. This week, I'll be talking about, for the first time ever, I'll be trying to do a triple review in a single episode. So today we're going to be talking about all of the Uma Musume Pretty Derby specials and the movies. So this kind of may not be as long as it may, let's say, premeditate, but the fact of the matter is some of these are pretty nice and some of these are not as great. Either way, let's get first to the stats. So the first one that we're going to talk about will be Uma Musume Pretty Derby BNW, although I've seen some people refer to this as BNW, but you could also say these are the OVAs for the first season. So it's a 3-episode mini anime about a side story that doesn't really affect anything and happens after the end of the first season. Then this was released in 2018 with the first season done by PA Works and so on and so forth. The second one that we'll be talking about is Road to the Top. It's the version that I watched at the release was the compilation movie. It's not the original miniseries because from what I understood, the original Road to the Top was 4 episode I think episode anime made by Cygames Studios. So it was already released in 2023 and it became then a compilation movie, and that's the version that I'll be talking about. I hazard a guess that given that the movie's, let's say, somewhat more available than the mini anime, I would say that the movie may or may not cover most, if not all, of the important points of the anime, though. And this is a thing, given that this is a movie, I don't know if the anime is like that, but the movie is pretty beautiful in itself, so I don't know if they did some kind of touch-up with making it into a movie, but given what I saw, pretty great. And then the cherry on top, the one that I really want to talk about, this is the one that I just finished watching, is the movie that basically takes is Cygames' letter to say that Pretty Derby is finished, and then we go into the next step in the series. It is beginning of a new era, and basically, oh my god, man, that movie is awesome. So this one came out in 2024, in May 2024 if I'm not mistaken, came out on theaters, so there's that. And after I finish everything, after this episode, next episode will most likely be the first season of Cinderella Gray, which I really want to watch. After watching the beginning of a new era, I feel like it will be such a great anime to watch. Oh my god. I'll get there when I get there. So let's get to the story. So first off, let's talk about BNW. I don't have many things to talk about in here. There's only talk really quickly about story, and then talk a bit more about my opinion, and then we go to the next one and next one. So BNW happens strictly after the end of the first season, and again, it's the first season, not the second, so it still lingers on that same setup that we had in the first season. So for instance, for the most part of the release, Pechan is the main girl, although in this special specifically, I would say that the main character is more veered towards Dio Scarlet and Vodka to some extent, but mostly Scarlet, as she's nominated to be like the head of a committee made by the student council. So basically it's something that Rudolph came up with to kind of give back to the community, to the support of the fans. And basically it's a relay race that the student council will be promoting, and with that they will take the fan favorite trio B and W, so it's Biwa Hayahide, Narita Taishin, and Winning Ticket. So the three of them are pretty popular trio. They compete against each other on many G1 races, and so they will do a relay race to basically just give a bit of a competition and make a kind of a mini festival for the community somewhat. So it's basically 3 episodes about something that happens in the cultural festival of your average anime, let's say. Given that we have this is still made by Payworks, but this is something that I want to clear rather earlier than later. And this is talking about my experience overall with anime in general. It's been a really long time, and I don't think I remember on top of my head a time where I watched an OVA and actually thought that the animation took a dip for the worse. And it kind of felt really strange watching this, because any part that there was some kind of running, it felt, I don't know, a bit weird. The animation felt really janky, and in general it all felt really out of place in many ways. So I don't know if they got lazy, if the budget was not there, if they had a reduced team due to some kind of, I don't know, scheduling conflict, project conflict, I don't know. But the animation itself and the art feel really lacking compared to the first season, even the first season. I know that I glazed the second season for making a really great step up from the first one, but even then, talking about generally, right, animation and art, I think that the OVA somehow took a hit, and this goes through all 3 episodes. This is not like just the first one. Not to say that the first one would have better animation than the rest, because at this point this is an OVA. So anyways, so the thing is, animation and art are pretty dubious in this OVA, and this may be my opinion, okay? So the story is basically Rudolph comes up with this idea of the relay race. The girls from Spica are kind of dragged into it with the offer of sweets, and so as we have the setup from the first season, so we have Teo being the Teo from the first season, and we have McQueen being the McQueen from the first season. We have some of the old gags between McQueen and Goldship, which are really funny, but at the same time there's this whole thing where they get dragged into it, and then we have the whole other trope at this point also, as this is after the end of the first season. We don't have Suzuka, not that it really matters, but anyways, a detail. And in general, the main girl for, at the release, this part will be Scarlet, as she is the main girl for the committee and other stuff. And the whole crux of it is that Scarlet basically promises to Rudolph that everything is going to be alright, but then she discovers in the middle of it that actually the girls from B&W kind of split up for whatever reason, and it doesn't really become that clear, and for the most part it does not take the time to actually like explain much, because the first episode is basically introducing the whole setup and then just recruiting Hayahide, because Hayahide is okay with the whole relay race thing, and then she doesn't really care about the whole thing, more or less. And then the second episode is more or less just kind of getting Winning Ticket to join up the group, and so it's the whole gag about the girls trying to running around trying to convince her and so on and so forth, something that the second season would, let's say, borrow a bit of when we come to the rice shower little arc in the second season, but that's not the point. Then after the second episode, they have both Hayahide and Winnie Ticket, but at this point Narita Taishin is nowhere to be found, and so the third season begins with this whole tension about, oh, we need to start the race, but Taishin is not here, and so on and so forth. And then we go through this whole thing of people searching for her, and then they need to actually get some visors to stand up as her because they are the last leg in the relay race, and the whole thing kind of becomes really weird, really convoluted for some reason, and it doesn't really push that emotional idea that the first season at the very least kind of carried with it, because it does not have enough time to actually develop any of the characters well, and not only that, but it also takes a lot of its time with side gags that don't really change anything, and also they create plot points that don't really change anything, because so at one point they say that in between of the relay race they have eating competition or an eating challenge specifically for Oguri Cap. Obviously it would be Oguri Cap, like, come on. And so she has to finish like 1,000 bowls of rice before the girls finish the relay, and in between of the third episode happening, with the girls like looking for Taishin, for one reason or another Hayahide comes down with a fever, and so she needs to be substituted at the last moment by Narita Bryan, which then kind of defeats the whole purpose, because at the end of the day they get Taishin to actually join up, but then we don't have Hayahide to really run, and so the B becomes for Bryan and not Biwa. And then anyways, so this is the whole story of the OVA. I think that I really didn't like, I didn't like it at the basis that the story is pretty convoluted for no reason whatsoever, and does not really it does not have a good ending, all things considered, because it does not like develop itself. And second off, the thing that really like catches me is that the animation and the art went so down that I just tuned out of it. I was like, oh my god, man, this is terrible. And for that reason specifically, I think that I really it just did not click with me. I don't know, it felt strange, felt weird, felt kind of unnecessary somewhat, and then this basically just kicked me out. The suspension of disbelief wasn't there anymore. And with that said, let's get to the next one. So, talking about Road to the Top. So, Road to the Top, at the release, I'm talking about the movie. I will not be talking about, now that I think about it, spoiler alert, okay? Spoiler alert before I start talking about the movies, because I think the movies are really important more than BMW. Spoiler alert, if you have reached this now and don't want spoilers about the movies, please get out, watch the movies and then come back. May have skipped that one at the beginning. So anyways, talking about the first movie, talking about Uma Musume Road to the Top. So this movie is really cute. It talks about three, I would not say really new girls, but they are girls that for the most part they only had minor cameos in the 3 seasons that we have outside of Opera O, but I'll get there. So the main girl that we have is Narita Top Road, or NTR for short. I will not be talking about NTR, it's better to just say Top Road. And she's our main girl, and the two rivals that we will kind of accompany her in this movie are Admire Vega, and the third one, TM Opera O. That Opera O has already appeared, I think, in the first season and maybe the second one, but she was really side character, so she didn't actually have much, if any, development, all things considered. And now in this movie she will kind of be in the limelight for a bit, so it will be better. In that way, Road to the Top is a pretty, let's say, standard story for the most part. So it's not something that really, like, it's innovative, but it's not bad either way. So it's basically the story about how Top Road was taken in by a trainer when she was really young, and then started training from a young age to actually run and become stronger and stronger. And as she joined Racing Academy, she got good results from her debut race and then some races after. But every time she got into a G1 race against some formidable opponents, she never really got there in the end. And basically the idea, the main thing around the movie is that we have first, I will not remember the order of any of the races in this case, but first we have then Top Road winning one race, and then the next one is the setting of Opera O as the one to beat, because she then becomes she is named I think the queen or the emperor, something like that. I think the emperor is Rudolph actually, so I think it's either the queen or the conqueror, something like that, because from that point on I think she has like an 8 race winning streak, so she becomes really dominant in that one generation. And the next time that they race together, when Top Road is nearly like getting over her first slump, because at this point she's really depressed about losing and taking her whole time and training and not really getting the results, because she has, and this, I think this is the main thing about this one movie, is that Top Road has, I will not say a complex, but she has this thing about responding to everybody's expectations. So she has her trainer that is more or less her paternal figure for the most part, that she really wants to give back to. She wants to respond to his expectations, and not only that, but also her friends in the class and stuff. And so whenever she loses, she gets really, really depressed, to the point that he gets into a slump, and then for the next few races you can already predict that she will lose, which in and of itself is not that unpredictable, all things considered. So these are not like top class riding, like these are not meant to be high drama stuff, but even then the whole thing is, most of this script is pretty predictable, all things considered. So she first loses to Opera O, and then we have the setup that Opera O is the main one to beat, and then after that we have good extent of the movie. I would say that 1/3 of the movies is related to this, is just to set up the whole backstory and the goal of Advance Vega, Admire Vega. Oh my god, I cannot speak today, sorry guys. But the whole second third of the movie is to set up Admire Vega backstory and motivation for the most part. So, and this is one of the parts that kind of took me a bit by surprise and kind of annoyed me a bit about this movie, is that the setup, the backstory on Vega, the way they did it, I know that it is, let's say, realistic, it is based on real facts, let's say, but it really downs the mood of the series, because so just to explain, so what's the thing with Vega? She had, or at the very least when she was born, she would have had a twin sister, but due to, and this is a real thing, okay, this is a real thing, due to a common practice on horse breeding, whenever a mare is pregnant of twins, they generally euthanize one of the twins due to the risks of the life of both the mare, the mother, and the two loaves. So they generally choose the one that looks healthier, let's say, and sacrifice the other one. And that got translated into Uma Musume as she had a twin sister that unfortunately couldn't be born, and for that reason she runs to compensate the fact that she lived and not her sister. So it's kind of survivor complex, more or less. So she kind of dedicates her whole body and strength and everything in order to compensate for the fact that she's the one that survived. And this is kind of, even talking about it, I think this is kind of pretty fucked up, I think so, because you know you kind of understand the struggle, but at the same time it's kind of it's you kind of imagine and kind of gets a bit weird. And in an overall, let's say, view of the whole series, it was really off tone considering everything that I watched before, because I think the maximum that I saw, I think that the lowest point that we got in, I think, the whole series was a self-doubt on competition and stuff. And so it kind of becomes really almost off topic, the way that she portrays this complex about wanting to compensate for the fact that she's the one alive. And it becomes even worse when we get to the trauma run, let's say, to the trauma part of her arc, because then the whole thing kind of gets really fucked up. It's really messed up. You see Vega overtraining, even overworking herself to compensate for that and try to win for her sister, and even then the whole thing kind of does not work out, and then she kind of begins to kind of blame herself, and the whole thing kind of gets really messed up. Eventually, however, Toporodo comes up and basically saves her with her shining bright. The one thing is, Toporodo has a little bit of shonen protagonist on her, so she kind of has that right charisma and save other people aura, and so she kind of convinces and helps really Vega to notice that her life is her own, and her sister wouldn't want her to sacrifice herself. And in that way, we finished the arc for Vega in that sense. And then the next thing, the final run, the final race for Road to the Top is one where Top Road will compete against Opera. I think Vega was not involved in this one, I think. And we have some really nice animation coming from, again, this was made by Cygames themselves, so this is, at this point at the release, they already had their own studio. If I'm not mistaken, at this point they already had produced Cinderella Girls U149, that I want to mention that I already commented when I did the original review on that the last episode specifically had some amazing animation with the whole Aris arc and stuff. And I think that that one scene kind of was to build up, to culminate into how much this last scene in this movie was well done. So the whole animation, the whole thing really gets going, the light work and the colors and the whole thing, it's really nice. And so for that reason, at the end of the race, Top Road wins, and basically this whole story, let's say the whole story of the movie, goes through one whole year that they go through the classic cups. So I think it's Tanosho, Kikasho, and the Japan Derby. I think that's it. I may be wrong on that, okay? I may be wrong on that. But the thing is, pretty nice. I feel like I did not connect so much with Top Road as maybe with Teo or even Kita-san. But at the same time, I think that the story itself is pretty nice. Also, one thing that I wanted to mention is that they basically glue Meisho Doto to Opera in this. And already talking about Opera, I think Opera, in many ways, I think she was maybe written too close to Sounds of Earth, or maybe it's vice versa. Like Sounds of Earth was maybe Sounds of Earth that appeared in the third season was maybe written too much like the original Opera, because they talk a bit alike and with the same kind of demeanor, so that there's that. But I feel like Opera has, she has a bit more of development, she has more screen time, so the comparison is not that fair. But even then, I think that it's kind of a bit too close for comfort, in my opinion. Given that, the animation on this and the art got really nice. The animation has already improved a lot from the third season, so now at this point at the release, Cygames has overtaken the whole production, I think, for the Uma Musume anime. So we don't have Studio Kai anymore, we don't have PA Works, this is Cygames only. I think, for this movie specifically. And when you talk about the next one, the next one will be a doozy. I am already on 30 minutes of talking. I will destroy my voice talking about this. So let's get started. So the next one, and the one that I feel like you really do need to watch Road to the Top before watching Beginning of a New Era, because some of the girls that appear in Road to the Top appear here in New Era as side characters, more or less. So when talking about Road to the Top, we have like 1.5 hours of movie. I think this Beginning of a New Era is already nearly 2 hours. It's like 1 hour 48 minutes, 1 hour 50 more or less. And oh my god, man, from the get-go, I think that it already grabs you by the balls and says you are going to like this. And I just wanted to talk about this because it was something that really like crossed my mind when I first started like watching this. Is that back in 2024, I think, and this came out in May 2024. Back in 2024, I think that the trailer came out of this, and then it has one very specific scene. I think it's the tackle scene, and I remember retweeting about that and like saying that this is going to my watch list because the scene itself is freaking, oh my god, it's fucking beautiful. And watching it really now, I just thought, oh my god, this is so great. Like, so this is my opinion right now, okay? So hindsight may change this when I watch Cinderella Gray, or even when I watch the eventual second season of Cinderella Gray. This may change a bit, but let's just say, okay, the first season of OVA, not that great. When they came for the second season, Studio Kai did a great job. Third season, not so great. I already talk about this. Then Road to the Top, Side Games overtook the production and said, okay, we're going to do this. And they did a really great job. And I think that was just the appetizer to say to the fans that now we're taking off. We're taking this to ourselves and actually making this. And when I watched Beginning of a New Era, I think it was like the letter, just to really draw the line and say, now this is our series. This is truly ours. Because oh my god, man, they threw everything they had at this. They got so many support studios for this. So let's start with the story, because I think the story kind of brings about a few more points. So the start is really, really, really familiar. It is the same start of someone going to an event. I mean, this is the fucking start of the first season. Wait, you have a group of Umas from the middle school kind of stuff going into their first G1 race. There, our main girl, Jungle Pocket, goes there, watch Fuji Kiseki run the run of her life, and from then on, Jungle Pocket has the dream of training and becoming the strongest Uma out there. Cut to that, we have the opening for the movie. Quick aside, the first movie, Road to the Top, also had a proper opening, but anyways, this movie has an opening for some reason, even though it's a movie for theaters, whatever. It's just to like present some of the girls that we'll be mainly talking about here. So we cut to the opening. The opening shows a bit of time and events. So from watching Fuji Kiseki run the run of her life, Poke-kun or Poke-chan, Poke, whatever you want to call her, she enrolls into Tracing Academy. She gets to meet Fuji Kiseki or Fuji-san in person, and Fuji then gets her trainer to actually train Poke. And this is something that they don't actually mention like for the first like half an hour of the movie, I think. But in the meantime of Poke watching Fuji run and she actually enrolling, Fuji has kind of retired, not definitively, I think, retired from racing due to an injury, and so she missed the chance for the Triple Crown. I think she got like one crown and then she got injured and couldn't compete for her Classics years. So there's that. This is a plot point that will have some kind of wait later, but at this point, anyways, just as an aside, I'm pretty sure Road to the Top already didn't have any influence from the girls from the first 3 seasons. It just cameos at most, and especially now in beginning of a new era, you see a whole lot of cameos from the girls, but no real influence whatsoever. So they don't even get direct dialogue with the main cast. And so basically, that aside, what we have is Poke now training with the same trainer of Fuji's, Nabe-san, and so she has her debut race, she wins, and then goes through her G1 races, her first few G1 races. So I think if not the first, the second crown that she tries to, I think actually is the first crown that she attempts to get, she runs against, and this is going to be the main antagonist for the whole movie. And this is something that I will congratulate and give kudos to Cygames to the way they wrote this, because I thought, and watching this was really interesting that way, that they actually wrote something different for once. So kudos on that. It kind of begins the same, but it gets really different later on. So our main antagonist for this one, and I think for a lot of people may be the best girl in the series, Agnes Tachyon. She runs up to Poke and just wrecks the whole competition out of pure talent. She just don't even mind the rest of the competitors. It's like that. She doesn't really mind anyone, doesn't see anyone. She just goes there and runs and absolutely destroys the rest of the competition. And in seeing that, and this is the first point, in being, let's say, beaten so hard, Poke just takes that, transforms this into that shonen energy of never giving up, and just starts training more and more to one day beat Tachyon. And goes to Tachyon in the school, talks to her, tries to challenge her, even though she doesn't even give a shit about Poke herself. She challenges her and stuff, and tries to train. One of the side note from the very beginning, and this is something that I really thought before I found out in the credits about the support studios. One of the things that, and this may be obvious to some people that watch me or listen to me from a long time, you know that I am one huge Trigger fanboy. I know, and I've seen so much Trigger in my life that I can see their, let's say, visual signature, the way that they do animation, the little touches that they input into each of their animes and stuff. And one of the things that really caught my eye, and there are a lot of things that caught my eye in this movie, but the one thing that caught my eye from the get-go, aside from how beautiful the backgrounds are and stuff, and the presentation stuff, I'll get there when I get there, but the one thing that really catches my eye about characters and character animation specifically is that this is really Trigger coded. This is even to the point that I just thought this really reminds me of Trigger in a visual sense, but in a more, let's say, more finesse, more fine, more condensed way, something akin to Darling in the Franxx. Okay, so it not only had that Trigger, I want to say smell, but it will sound strange. So it not only has that Trigger a touch, but also it feels somewhat close to Darling in the Franxx, specifically that had A1 and Cloverworks working together with them. So it kind of feels like a mixture of both. And spoilers, but anyways, later on I will discover that there's a reason why I had the sense that it was kind of Trigger colored, let's say. Anyways, so for the beginning, then Poke needs to beat Tachyon. That's her main goal. And after the first time that Tachyon basically beat the whole competition out of the water without any kind of fluff, any kind of anything, the next thing is that the next, let's say, big part is the more or less introduction of our main side characters. So it's Manhattan Cafe and Dance Flame. Outside of that, also we have a little, let's say, side cameo of Narita Top Road also appearing here. And by the end, we have TM Opera again as the one to beat, more or less, but I'll get there. So the whole thing kind of begins with I need to beat Tachyon, and with the theme of being kind of trigger coded, Poke is especially, she carries that Kamina energy, let's say, of being really fight the power, underdog story, beat the big guy, and so on and so forth. And this carries over for the next races and stuff. And then after some time we have now this is not a G1 race, this is like a G2 or something like that she runs also against Tachyon, and I think at this point we also Manhattan Cafe. And this is the point of the movie, and this is not that the race is important, but at this point in the movie it's already being alluded to due to the way Tachyon says stuff and rest of it, that Tachyon knows that she has, let's say, a problem, maybe a fracture, maybe a congenital problem. It's not really determined, but the movie leaves it clear for the audience at the very least that she has, let's say, limited time to actually race. And in this one race, she chooses to, as she puts it, engrave or mark her racing into the rest's eyes in order to then they will be able to unlock the limits of Uma Musume. So the whole thing, I think the main thing about the goal of Tachyon, and the one thing that really kind of gets how can I say that? It was so weird to actually explain, but the one thing that I think the goal of Tachyon is that she wants to, as she puts it, right? So Tachyon is a theoretical quantum particle that is faster than light, but they are only theoretical and not really. They have not yet proven it, I think. So the one drive that she has is to prove that they exist. It's basically to say that she wants to see the limit of an Uma Musume. She wants to see how much faster everyone can push themselves to see the limit that they can reach, and if they can break the limit, and so on and so forth. That translates to the fact that Tachyon herself is really talented and runs like a beast, so she runs incredibly, and in this one race she forces herself to the max to break the limit, and then after winning and basically leaving everybody so behind that they think that they could not ever beat her, she retires. She goes into indefinite hiatus, but we know as audience that she retires. Quick aside about IRL lore, the IRL against Tachyon had a major fracture, I think, after 4 G1 races, even though he had a major lead in all of them. And so he had to retire and become a stud after only 4 races, and so his career was cut short. He would sire, I think, something on the thousands of offspring, which then says a lot about, and I think at the release that it is the one horse represented inside of the game that has the most of his progeny represented in the game. The one that I think is directly related to him, like he's the dad, is Daiwa Scarlet specifically. Daiwa Scarlet, from what I know, it's direct daughter of Agnes Tachyon, and some other are like grandchildren of him, and goes on from there. That aside, not to mention the fact that Agnes Tachyon appears in the same anime that Daiwa Scarlet appears, but we don't talk about this because Daiwa Scarlet appears for like one line of text and it's just a cameo, not really that important. Important thing is, at this point, Tachyon has retired. Obviously, nobody takes this very kindly, especially Poke, because she basically lost all of the semblance of challenge, because the one thing that she really wanted to do was to beat Taekyon, and now she will not be able to ever do that. And from then on, we have a few more developments. We have a bit of an evolution on Cafe. We have a bit of evolution on Dantsu. But the thing that really kind of I feel like they did better than with Road to the Top is that they didn't really take their time to dive into either Dantsu or Cafe. Cafe has a kind of her background a bit alluded to. They don't actually show much of it. They just give an idea. But the fact is that the whole thing kind of doesn't really. We don't get a pause from the main plots to actually go into the side plot, so we always keep an eye only on Poke, and for that matter. So after Taekyon retires, some time passes, Poke has a kind of depression, but Fuji, as her main idol, comes up and pep talks her into actually like, come on man, I know you can do it. She goes there. We get to know that due to her injury, Fuji could never participate into the Japan Derby and couldn't take Nabe-san into the Japan Derby, because this is also a dream for not only the Umas but also the trainers. And so now that Poke is so young and still developing stuff, she can actually dispute the derby and actually win. And so she pep talks herself and starts to train again. And then after the races, literally to then the derby, win the derby. That scene of her winning the derby is really, really nice. The whole thing, and this is one major point I think that they try to keep, and this is like really important stuff, is that ever since Taekyon retired, even though she retired, she chooses to go to each of the races to watch Dantsu, Cafe, and Poke to actually see whatever experiment she has going on. Basically is to see if they can surpass her, because she takes her as the maximum, as the one to beat. Really, it's kind of I think it's presumptuous. It's really, it's kind of a huge hubris case, but at the same time, the way that she let's say, because this will eventually become a trauma on the second act low point, but the fact that she traumatized so many of the girls into remembering the way that she ran just to say that she's unbeatable. It's not that she's pretentious about her own capabilities, even though she's already injured and had to retire, but it is also because she knows that she's kind of really talented about it. And the whole thing kind of comes out like this. She doesn't really come out to anyone to talk about the fact that she's injured, but the way that she actually retires, it comes out to the other characters as if she just chose to do it because she didn't give a fuck. So it comes out to be somewhat like she is a genius. She knows that she's a genius and she doesn't really care about this one competition that everybody's in, because to her it's really easy, and so she has no interest in it. And due to that fact, it comes out as really like a really bad person. It's like not really bad person, but she is kind of stomping over other people's dreams, because she set up the bar so high, and now that she set up the bar, she isn't letting anyone try to take the bar from her, because she's retired. You cannot beat her anymore, and the whole thing kind of goes from there. So from this point on, then Poke wins the derby, but then she kind of hits a slump when she kind of starts to doubt herself. So we had a little of a build up in every one of the following scenes, how she has this imposter syndrome, this self-doubt on herself about how she shouldn't have won. If Taekyon was there, she wouldn't have won, and so on and so forth. And it grows on her to the point that she kind of starts to hold herself back subconsciously, to the point that she starts losing races because of it. And there's this whole montage about it. They do a really beautiful work on the montage itself. I'll get there. I need to hone myself on talking about the whole thing about art and presentation, because oh my god, this movie was amazing on that. But by this point we have advancements on both Cafe and Dentsu. Dentsu herself is not that important as a character overall, but she eventually comes forward as let's say a somewhat second rival to Poke due to the things that happen later on. And so at this point, Poke has lost the chance for the Triple Crown. I mean, she had already lost to Tachyon, but anyways. And after a whole lot of depression, a whole lot of montage, we have again Fuji actually coming out of the retirement with her special race silks. Quick side note on that, pretty nice design on there. Pretty nice design. I didn't think that they would go with that choice of design, but they did. Pretty good. Anyways, so next thing you know, she comes out with her silks and just says, I know that I'm a bit old and without practice, but let's race. And so the race, Fuji wins, and just like pep talks Poke again into, come on man, I know you can do it, come on. You do you. You're strong. You can be strong. And so from then on, that's the last pep talk that we need for the whole movie. And then comes the last race against Opero and Dance. And oh my god, man, that's one of the scenes of all time. It is really nice. It's so much so, right, that even Tachyon watching gets moved by it. It's something else. And obviously, Poke ends up winning the last race. The movie ends, and that's let's say the gateway to Cinderella Gray. Because from what I know, Cinderella Gray does not have the influence of anyone from the last generations, so only the cameos. So much so that in the movie we have the cameo from Urara Rice, Silent Suzuka, Spechan. I swear to God, I did not see Tail, I did not see Ghost Ship, I did not see McQueen, but I did see Oguri Cap, and I don't remember the rest. There were other ones, but I don't actually remember right now. Anyways, so now I need to talk about art, presentation, and music. This is going to be hard. Let's just start with, I could not point out a major scene on this movie that did not have really nice light work on it. I know that this is animation, this is for the most part drawn by hand, and some parts are 3D, but especially the parts that are drawn by hand, really incredible light work, incredible effects that they use. The amount of budget that they threw on every single scene, the way that they do the characters, the scenes, it's not cinematography because this is not like recorded, this is drawn, but anyways, the framing that they do for the scenes, the way that they do presentation, the background, oh my god, the backgrounds, bro, the backgrounds are so fucking amazing, There is this one, I think it happens multiple times, but so like Tachyon uses one of those office chairs that are like meshback, the one with the little, it's like black with the little holes and stuff. And when they do some kind of framing with that it is like occluded because it's out of focus, and they focus on people on the back and you can see the little holes there. It's so well done, so nice. The way that they do the little droplets on the grass, and the way that, oh my god, the light work, bro. The light work. This is not making any sense, okay? I will not make any sense. This is pretty scattering. But just to say, just watch this. It is a spectacle to the eyes. It's not really for the Umas anymore, in this case. I'm not saying this because of the Umas. This is not because of the franchise. This is because, and this is what I think they did. They just came up and said, okay guys, so we need to show off how much we can put into a single movie, okay? So we have 1 hour and 50 minutes of just show everything that we have, everything in the kitchen sink at this project. We will animate like our lives depend on it. And oh my god, the delivery. It is indescribable how much every single scene is beautiful. It is really hard to say that. How much every single scene, if they were not like it's either illustration quality animation and art in general. It's either illustration quality, it's like a piece made by hand on a commission from that one artist that you love. It's either that or a really well done animation on the races, on the girls stomping the turf and going through the race course. It is, oh my god, man. It's so amazing. I cannot emphasize this enough. When Taekyung announces her retirement, the way that they incorporate the red light into everything to say that this is the worst scenario, this is the moment that the whole thing kind of falls apart. Oh my god, man. Then there is, that was one of the parts that I was just lost. The one scene, and this is a thing, right? So I think every single one of the races that we have the main cast, one of them will choose to like go and activate the special, and the animation that they use for the specials are so beautiful, so full of color, so full of effects. It's really spectacle to the eyes, and every single one is so well done. I feel like, especially the Taekyung one, oh my god. When Taekyung, the final race of Taekyung, it is such a spectacle to watch. It is so beautiful, so beautiful. And join this up with the huge amount of light work that they did with every single one of the characters, every single one, like every single like scene, they have this care with lights, with tones, to the point that they kind of adjust the color palette just to make the bright colors pop even more and feel like everything is shining. Everything in this anime is shining, is in this really natural color, really natural light, but even then it pops out at you. It's really beautiful. And the backgrounds, oh my god, the backgrounds, and this is a thing, right? So I have two sides on this. There is one part of me that just looks at the background and the girls there and says, yes, this is perfect. And then the other part is like, they are hiding poor animation on those girls with the beautiful background because you're paying more attention to the background than the actual animation. And I mean, fair, it may be that, but at the same time, the background's so beautiful. Then there's the anime, as I already said, the framing, animation, everything else is, oh my god, so nice. And then there's the music, the way that they build the scenes, and some people may be put off from this. Some people don't actually like the music to dictate how scene may feel. I'm okay with it. I feel like it's pretty alright because it does not really hinder the experience itself, and I think that in a major way it adds more than subtracts, because the only case that I've seen that it really diminishes the scene is if I feel like the music does not fit the scene, and that's pretty rare, all things considered, so it's not really the case. And oh my god, man, it's so nice. There is this one part when they're making the montage about Poke kind of breaking down and having the imposter syndrome kind of take over, that they do a race on the rain. It's a pretty quick scene, pretty quick transition, but the way they animate the rain and stuff, it looks so great. It feels so fluid. It's so nice. And oh my god, man, I cannot emphasize this enough, how much this is a spectacle. And the one thing that I feel like was like the top, outside of everything else that I talked about, outside of the little trigger touches, the A1 touches, every single like thing that I really like about this, outside of everything, the last race that it is, I may be wrong on that, okay, I may be fucking around with this, but when it is Poke, Dance, Top Road, and Opera O, the way that they introduce Opera O, oh my god, man, the way they introduce her before the race and the way that they introduce her in the race and in the middle of the race, it's, oh my god, it's so beautiful. It really shines her personality through in both the script and the scene, the animation, the whole the whole thing that they show, the whole presentation, it really shines her through and really pushes how much, and the whole thing about winning against her traumas and stuff, pushes how much Jungle Pocket is such an amazing racer at this point. Oh my god, man. That movie, man. That movie was beautiful. That's the only thing I have to say, really. I cannot, at this point, I think that maybe if you give me a few more days, I may kind of drop more criticism about the movie. But at this point, having finished the movie so recently, that movie was amazing. I recommend to everyone. It's really, really nice. I'm serious here. It's really nice. So, and I think that's about it. I have talked about the three special that I wanted to talk about and already gave my opinion. So with that said, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, please share, please follow, depending on the platform you're in. And I hope stick around for next time. Bye.